with bearings on a boat is they tend to go away because you're going in and out of the water. You're trailering a hot trailer from the road, you drop it in the water, it cools down and it sucks the water into any bubbles that may be in there. If the bearings are compromised because they've got pits in them, and it doesn't take very much of a pit to create this extremely nasty situation. Here's an example of pits right here. Just little tiny rust spots where the water had touched it, and it just eats right into the bearing. Now, these little tiny pits, as it goes around and around, will just slowly grind away at the bearing. They'll eventually just crunch and disintegrate. And as they do that, they'll get into the other bearings, and all of a sudden the wheel will start walking around, getting real hot, and eventually glow and just fall completely off the vehicle. The bearings sit inside the hub. The axle fits through here. This flat fits over the axle. You screw the nut on. This locks the nut into place, and then you put a pin through here. Bearings go. Usually the race goes as well. The race is pressed into here, and it's usually a pretty permanent item. But you can knock them out. You have a seal in the back. The seal in the back here. They have them for non-marine use and then for marine use trailers. The difference between them is the marine use has a double seal on the rubber end. There's one lip here and a secondary lip afterwards, and that creates a better seal against water sucking in. Now, how to get these things out is quite frankly, you just kind of pry it out. But I find the most effective thing for cutting grease is something called brake cleaner, brake parts cleaner, and it does through the grease in very short order, where the other stuff would not. And once you get it to this condition, the act of inspecting is quite literally, you just roll it around, and you're looking for any spots that are on the roller bearing. If there are any spots here, you're pretty much rest assured there are going to be spots in every part on here. There are numbers on the seal. The numbers are not usually on the metal; they're usually on the rubber itself. So if I were to clean this off, I'd look around on the rubber until I see the numbers located right here on the sides. They may not have that seal. Because this number is in reference to a marine type seal with a double lip on it. That doesn't mean that they're not going to have something that's going to work. And their seals back there are kind of just tossed in a little bag in a little box. So you can actually physically take this seal and kind of butt it up there and see if it's the right size on the inside diameter and see if it's the right size on the outside diameter. And it'll work just fine to get you going again. The race is located inside the hub. And this piece right in here. That's another heat-treated, hardened surface that the bearing rides against.
Okay.
And you drop it in there, it sits there, and it rides. So the races get pitted at the same time the bearings get pitted. Okay. But you take a piece of brass or something, use a brass or aluminum or something like that, and use that because the material is softer than the bearing race. You just kind of keep tapping it around and work it down. Okay. It's pressed in there because if you scar it, if it's a heavy scar, you've created a ledge. Now, even though the bearing race is hard, it's somewhat flexible. So you pound it in. Now you've got a slightly egg-shaped bearing race, and when you put it in there, you're going to feel it when you rotate the wheel. It's going to bump, 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 bump. Okay. Sometimes if you have a blowout or if the trailer bearing goes out, the level of the trailer drops down a little bit. Picture your trailer with a flat tire or the hub completely off the axle, and ask yourself, can I still jack up the trailer? Repacking it then is, you don't want to just smear it over the top. You want to get it deep down inside, because basically you just take it and you just keep pushing it in until it starts smearing out the other side. It's starting to smear out the other side. Okay, so that's pretty much how you do that. So you basically you've packed this in, you've packed You pack the bearings. If the seals were or races were bad, you've pounded them out. You've reinstalled them. You just make sure it seats down. You want to pay attention a little bit to this is your brake surface. So we're going to go ahead and try to assemble this a little bit and add some grease to it. Basically, I just kind of fill it in. We want to install the seal. Now, you repack the seal as well as the bearing. If there's water going to come in, it's going to come in right at this location, so you want to squirt it right in the cracks to get all of it gooped in there.
How often do you go through an inspection?
If I'm just trailering it in and out of the lake, I create a happy pack with all my all the necessary tools. When I I keep track of what I'm going to need. The big channel locks. I bought some cotter pins. Just a piece of wood or a piece of metal sitting right over the top, and you just hammer it down. And close attention to getting it started straight, because it will, once you get it started bad, it's real hard to straighten it out. Right there, I got it straight again a little bit. And it's getting flatter, and I'll go more toward the middle. And there, and it's perfectly flush to the top here, which is pretty much what I want. At this point here, I want to clean off the top, because all this grease is, once the brakes start heating up, the inside starts heating up, it's all going to just kind of push out onto the brake surfaces. Brakes do not work well under lubricated conditions. A lot of people are adamant about using marine grease. On the can, it doesn't say why. It'd be nice if they actually said why. But I've been using the non-marine grease, and it's been working just fine for me. And then I shove it on. I try to keep all the bubbles down as well. And then I get my other seal, which I haven't packed yet. It's down here. I'll do my overpriced repack machine. This piece here is like a hard washer that's got a flat on it. This is the flat on it is to keep it from rotating. Just slowly rotate it around until it finds its home. Put the seal on. Now I want to put the nut on. That creates a friction surface for the nut to ride on. And then I want to tighten it up. Now the level of tighten is basically snug. And once you get it into a snug condition, which is right here, that's too tight. Metal expands, and you keep it that tight, it's going to heat up. I go about 1/3 turn, loosen it, and that gives it room to play. Take a random. When you try to remember where the hole is. Take this off. Some people wrap these things around tight. It's not necessary. You just need to clear. You just need to clear the outside of the bearing buddies. If you still have a lip here, you have a pair of pliers. You can grab a hold of it, Leatherman, whatever you have available if you get back on the road. Now here's where I made my mistake last time. Is I packed this full of grease first. Okay, what that did is it took that spring and pushed it out. And I thought that was a good condition. That's not necessarily a good condition because there was no room for the expanded grease to go, and it popped the bearing buddy off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack it lightly, and then I'm going to pound it on. I'm going to make sure that there's room for the grease to go back and forth. And basically, it's not a complex job.
Messy though.
It is extremely messy.
It looks like you need 2 bearings and 14 rolls of paper towels.
I brought 2 rolls of paper towels with me.
I recommend plastic gloves.
Plastic gloves.
Oh, that is-
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that should be standard equipment in the truck. Okay, right here, and there's another. Take a grease gun and pop it out. You can see that I can push this down, and there's air holes in here that's going to let that thing move. I can push this around and it slides around. I'm going to take a grease gun a little bit later on, and I'm going to pop it out until this cylinder starts to come out just a little bit. But I do not want to compress this all the way out. My objective is not to fill it up all the way, thinking that everything's going to work out. Next comes reinstalling the wheel. You sit here and look at this wheel. You'll have tapers on the bolts that the bolts ride up against. In most cars, it's actually riding up against here to some degree, but on this one it's not. Then there's this flange here. If you feel behind it, there's a void. So when you tighten the bolt, you're actually flexing the steel down. And that flexing condition is what's causing the tire to get tight. Now, if you hyper tighten these things or over torque the bolts, you'll smash these down over time, and the tire over vibration going down dirt roads and what have you will eventually work the lug bolts loose. Once you get a couple of them loose, it's a catastrophic condition where they all start going one after another, and they start breaking off. And that's what happens when you see these guys going down the road, where the wheels or something got rusty. They kept tightening them up. You lost the tensile strength in here, elasticity or whatever it is. And so as you tighten these lug nuts, there's a certain torque pressure, whatever it is. Check your manufacturer specifications for your vehicle. And tighten it to that.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.